Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Zodiac Bandit, and today we're going to be recapping EXU Divergence Episode 2, so let's get into it. We start with the party as they are heading north towards Torm's Hill. Starman has just died and Crocus has just received his gift from the Storm Lord. He puts the belt on and his strength is now 21. They have 3 days at least until they make it to Torm's Hill. Group survival check: Garin 4, Nia 8, Crocus 16, Arrow 13, and Phaedra a 5. Seems it's going to be a little longer than 3 days. Now they need to make their con saves. Arrow natural 20, Crocus 16, Nia a 5, Garin a 10, and Phaedra was so low that she didn't even mention it. So she gets another point of exhaustion, as do Garin and Nia. Many people have their speed halved. The party asks how Crocus likes his new belt. He says it's just his first belt. It feels good. Next day, survival checks yet again. Garin 6, Nia 13, Crocus a 6, Phaedra a 5, and Arrow a 10. Con saves yet again. The only person that fails is Phaedra. Crocus still has 0 points of exhaustion, and he's now also carrying 2 kids on his back. He is a motherfucking beast. Phaedra now has 4 levels of exhaustion. She is looking rough. Nia sees this, and she sees that things aren't going well for her. Crocus asks if he can help her. Phaedra doesn't think that he can do any more than he already is, so Arrow picks Phaedra up and carries her so she doesn't have to do too much walking. This is a different feeling for Phaedra. This is not the world that she came up in, and her size doesn't help with all the roots that are in her way every couple of feet. Phaedra says that she doesn't understand how Arrow does this. She understood Rybad Cole and she understands how a city works, but she doesn't know the outside world very well. Arrow says repetition makes these difficult things seem easier. He spent a lot of time here, and maybe one day she'll eventually learn. Survival checks again. Garin 14, Nia dirty 20, Crocus natural 20, Phaedra a 2, and Arrow a natural 1. Con saves: Arrow nat 1, Garin 12, Nia 17, Crocus a 10, and Phaedra a 2. Phaedra now has 5 levels of exhaustion. Arrow can tell that they're going up in altitude. This means that the air is going to be a lot harder for them to breathe. The risk of sickness is much higher now. He also feels Phaedra is near death on his back, breathing extremely hard. Crocus gives one of the kids that he's carrying on his back to their mother, and then takes Phaedra from Arrow. Crocus can smell the blood coming from Arrow as he's been leading the pack through the roughest terrain, making a path for everyone else, and his feet are bleeding because of this. Garin asks if Nia is sure that Arrow can lead them through this, and Nia says that he has the most experience and she trusts him to see this through. Nia then wraps Phaedra up in her cloak, and Crocus tells Phaedra that it'll all be okay. Arrow now recognizes the woods they're in. He knows they're only 1 day before they get to Torm's Hill. If the area is still the same, they should be able to save Phaedra, but only if Torm's Hill is actually still there. When they camp, Arrow makes a small little lean-to for them to all sleep under, and he makes a fire for them. Crocus asks how he can make this lean-to, and Arrow says that when he was young, a man that was like an uncle to him showed him how. He says if they make it through this, he'll show Crocus how to do it. As they sit at the fire, the party see Gond, the bugbear, is still carrying Starman. Coswald, the green dragonborn, tries to tell him that he doesn't have to carry him, but Gond gives him a look and Coswald backs off, knowing that to leave his body behind would be like a second and much worse death for Starman. Arrow gives everyone a good berry, his little good pine cone berry he's able to make. Crocus gives his to Phaedra. The next morning, survival checks. Arrow, natural 1, Garin 18, Crocus a 12, Nia a 13, and Phaedra a 12. Con saves: Garin fails and he now has 3 levels of exhaustion. Nia, she rolls a 13, she saves, so she only has 2 levels. Crocus saves with a 13, and he only has 1 level. Phaedra, with a 12, saves, so she lives. Arrow, 6, and he fails, having 3 levels. The party see that Celeste, the blue dragonborn mother, is at 4 levels of exhaustion, Gond the bugbear is at 2, Coswald the green dragonborn is at 3, and Marlath, I think he was a bronze dragonborn, is at 2. As they move, the forest begins to fan out, and the rain still falls, however, it's still very thick, but it begins to lighten up a bit. They see a thicket of briar before them. Arrow knew a secret passage through here, but sees that it's now wide open, with wagon ruts and footprints going in as fast as possible. The party can hear voices off in the distance. There are both soldier footprints and bear footprints. This was recent, as they can hear voices very close beyond the briar. Arrow tells everyone to stay behind him, and Garin holds his hammer and gets ready for whatever happens next. Crocus puts his hand on Marlath, the Dragonborn who sold out other Dragonborn, and tells him to come with them. They all enter. They all see what used to be Torm's Hill, which was a dwarven smith's home built under a hill. It was initially taken over during the calamity by a group of goblins who eventually left to go serve whoever they served. A group of halflings then found it and built it, and then built the briar wall around it. The leaders were Kalsara Bandy, a halfling matriarch, and her wife, Nez Pilch, a goblin matriarch. They run a small community of survivors. The last time Arrow was here, it was only a few buildings, maybe 24 people at the most were able to stay here in the thick forest. But now, there's 1,200 people staying here, wagons, sleds all over the place, bodies on the ground, a few tents grouped up together. Some of them used to be the tents of the Strife Emperor's armies, so it was concerning at first, but there are many refugees and former prisoners here. There's also many goblins and hobgoblin people who worked the farms and were told they had good lives, but would still be killed if they couldn't work or if they tried to run. The central hill, that is Torm's Hill itself, now has a ton of structures on it. This clearly didn't happen overnight. There's people yelling directions at others trying to help during all this chaos. Arrow pushes through the crowd to try to find the leaders, Kalsara and Nez. He's taken back by how many people are here, and they're not in chains, they're free. It's been since his youth that he saw something like this. Nia goes with him as she thinks that this is where she'll reunite with her sister, and she tries to hold herself up. She looks around and sees that many people are far worse off than she is. Crocus can see the rough state that Phaedra is in. He tells her that she'll be alright. She says that she knows this isn't where she dies. She should be, getting killed off somewhere else in an alley, being stabbed or something like that. That's her own words. Arrow sees roads that weren't here before. It seems that people have moved around so much and their footfalls have made the roads naturally. He sees a hobgoblin with shattered glasses holding up a lantern in front or for a tiny, round, rotund goblin. She has gray hair and pants that have been tucked in as she's walking through the mud, and she has 2 fake silver teeth. This is Nez Pilch. She laughs at the sight of Arrow and she runs up and hugs his leg. She can't believe he's here. They thought that he had been taken. He was. Arrow says that it's good to see her. She notes that he said it was a fool's errand to stay here and that they'd all die, and look at the place now. She sees his damage and asks if he has any friends who needs some help as well. The party that show themselves, especially Phaedra, Nez tell them to go to Torm's Hill and put Phaedra on a shelf. Literally, she's small enough to fit on a shelf. Crocus is too big to really go into Torm's Hill comfortably, so Nia takes her inside instead. Celeste tells Crocus that he is family to them now for saving them. She and Kaz then go off and find food. Marlath is just looking around and he asks if anyone has food for new arrivals, so he doesn't have to go looking for any. The person who he asks doesn't really know and then runs off and tries to help other people. As Nia is pulled into Torm's Hill, she looks around for her gang, and with a perception check of 4, she looks around and she sees her parents under a lantern. Crocus sees her talking to nothing. Phaedra's parents say that they are proud that she's going to be able to see the sun again. Phaedra then falls asleep and then dreams of her parents for the first time in ages. She made it to Torm's Hill through the kindness of strangers, the kindness that she hasn't felt since her parents have died. As Nia walks into Torm's Hill, she finds warm clothes for Phaedra. This room is packed full with 60 injured and sick people in here, and there's only 2 healers moving about. She takes Phaedra to a dry spot and leaves her there. Nia then goes to some of the healers, and the healers ask if she's skilled in healing. Nia says not really, but she knows a little bit. The halfling that she's talking to has a ring, much like Nez's. This is Kalsara. Kalsara tells her that to rest up, as they need her help, because they need everyone's help. Kalsara gives her some bread and tea, and then Nia takes it back to Phaedra and feeds her, and the 2 of them share it a bit. Hasara takes Nia to a different building with some cots for her to sleep on, and she falls asleep almost instantly. Back outside with the boys, they aren't as tired as the rest of them were, so they look around and see what's happening. Garin takes in what's happening around him, and he just smiles. He's lived in hell for ages, and he sees this chaos, but there's no tyranny here. He then goes off to take in some of the buildings of his dwarven kin, especially looking for liquor. He rolls a masonry tools check, as he, should understand the masonry around here a bit, and rolls a 19. As he moves throughout this place, he hears laughter behind him. He hears dwarves talking about brewing and if it's crafting or not. Someone then puts their hand on Garin's shoulder and asks if he's okay. He seems a little far away. Garin says that he's just taking in the craftsmanship and asks for a beer, and the dwarf says to get him this man some beer. They all yell, Torm. He hears one of them say under their breath, he just wished to be free again, free to be with those he loved. Garin finds an old rock out behind Torm's hill. He touches the stone and sees runes on it. He finds a brass handle to a door that hasn't been opened in ages. Inside of this little storeroom, he finds about 12 massive barrels of ale and salted beef and pork. He knows the dwarves who made this place so that it would keep for as long as possible. He starts laughing and crying. Back with Arrow, he doesn't trust massive gatherings like this. He spent most of his life wandering. He's apprehensive right now. He looks at the people helping others out and sees people laughing. Part of him is somewhere back where he was before the calamity, and the other part of him isn't really trusting the surroundings, and he's looking out for danger. He looks to one of the mountain peaks that are up in the sky around him, and it calms him a little bit. He turns to Crocus and tells him that they wouldn't have made it as far as they did without him. He asks if he can lean on him as he needs to rest a little bit. Crocus says yes, and Crocus lets him lean on him. Arrow feels Crocus is stronger than he was before now, even after all this crap they've been through. Arrow can now rest up a bit, but he's always looking to the horizon. Garin eventually taps the keg and begins to drink and eat. He does take a good chunk of the meat, and he's going to go find the rest of the group and bring them drinks too. He doesn't want to let many people know about the storeroom, as he knows people will go crazy over it. On his way back, he sees Nez. She's organizing people, and she's talking to a tabaxi, who is currently soaked, telling her about a flood and people being lost on the other side of the river. Garin taps her on the shoulder, and he says there's a lot of mouths to feed, and takes her to the storeroom. She looks at the bounty and starts to cry. She asks if he's a sorcerer, and he says no, he's just an old drunk. She says that she loves this old drunk, and she hugs him. She says this will be shared equally. She then closes the door and rushes off. A few minutes later, more stronger people come back and begin to set up and take inventory. We then skip to the next day. Brennan rules that they no longer have exhaustion points at all, as a reward for making it there. They survived their journey to Torm's Hill against all odds. It is still raining, but it's very light. It's still hard for them to see the sun, as it's still very cloudy. As the party wake, they see that they are in chaos, and they see where the chaos meets the community. It smells here quite a lot. There's a lot of waste, and there's a lot of food stuffed into small rooms, and a lot of people stuffed in there as well. They see a porch on a roof, and Nez and Kalsara are talking on it to a bugbear who seems very injured after some public displays, likely in a prison somewhere. They seem to be the leader of the hobgoblins, and the goblins here being their speaker for them. They try to wave Arrow over. There are people trying to fix a flood wall. Crocus is pacing, waiting for Phaedra, and Phaedra gets up and immediately thinks about Crocus. She gets up and off her shelf, and she goes to the door, but on her way she sees a mug with sterilized tools. She steals a full-on stiletto knife from it, because of course she's going to steal right away. Seems they don't have the necessary tools to properly work with people, so they're making do with whatever they have, including a stiletto knife, which they no longer have because she stole it. She then leaves and sees Crocus immediately waiting for her outside. She asks how he is doing, and he says that he's fine and asks about her. She says it'll take a lot more to take her out. She says that he did a lot and says that she's been thinking about everything, and she's very proud of her bodyguard. She says things change when you get a bodyguard, and she hopes that one day he gets one of his own so he can feel the same way. The two of them hug, and then they see two shapes running towards them. They yell, "Boss!" It's Otto and Tevin. Otto hugs them both. Phaedra asks what happened to them. Otto says that they had to get the hands out of the crucibles, so they had to go inside of them, and when they were in there, it fell, and they were rolling for hours after that. She asks about Kef. Otto says that they met up with some of Kef's old friends and they were going different speeds than them. They were doing weird cult shit like laughing while standing in fire and biting people's faces off, claiming that they are the new gods now. So they just kind of left that group behind, including Kef. Phaedra notes that Kef is still around and Otto does not like the idea of that. Crocus tells them that they need to keep an eye on Marlath for selling out some Dragonborn, and then Marlath walks up to them at this point. He says he's sorry to interrupt them, but he's aware that they are the Roaches and their position in Rabad Kol. He wants to speak with Phaedra. Phaedra asks what about, and Marlath says regardless of how the fights went between the gods, there's going to be a new order around this town. And he can't help but notice that the people in charge here are two plump old women, and that's all the organization going around. He says that he's a man of letters and had a position of administration under the Strife Emperor. He thinks that all this sharing is chaos, but when the dust settles, he wants to work together with her to make some new structure for others to rely on. Phaedra says that he makes some good arguments, but there's an initiation process and they'll talk later. Marlath rolls insight check to see if she's being truthful, and Phaedra either rolls a persuasion or deception check and rolls a dirty 20, beating his 15. He believes what she says. He then sees the dagger on her body and then says that he needs to get his own weapon. Arrow, before he goes and meets with the leaders of Torm's Hill, he goes and looks for Nia. He rolls an investigation check to try to find her, and he rolls a dirty 20. He learned that she's working with Kelsara. As he's looking around, someone asks if he's talking about a woman named Renia, or if Nia is short for Renia, and he says it is. He turns and sees a figure wearing white robes under a traveler's cloak. She is a tiefling woman, and on her chest is a symbol of the Moonweaver, openly wearing this symbol. She looks like a cleric, which is more rare around here than normal. She says that she is Luz, a friend of the leaders here, and is a friend of Liana, Nia's sister. Arrow asks where she is, and Luz says that she left Torm's Hill. She waited months but got a vision and went up the mountain that he looked at the day before. She went to what's known as Snowgrave Pass. He knows that path well, actually. He asks if she has a moment, and she does, and the two of them then head to Nia in Torm's Hill, and he tells Luz the story of them getting here. As they go, Luz laughs and says they're doing it. She notes that the priest of the Changebringer who died in Rabad Kol at the beginning of this miniseries, and she says that who had the last laugh out of all of them. She just wishes that he could have seen all of this. Arrow sees where Nia is working, and the two of them head into Torm's Hill. Nia has been waiting for a moment to try to get away, but she can't really find anything as she's in the middle of aiding people inside this room. She just continues to patch people up, and she rolls a medicine check of 16. She's patching up a ill female water genasi. The water genasi wakes up and says that she doesn't believe in the afterlife, so if this is the Halls of Paradise, she apologizes. Nia says it's not the Halls of Paradise, but better than where she was before. Nia asks for her name, and the water genasi is Ondetra. Nia continues to patch her up and rolls an insight check, but only rolls an 8. Nia can see that Ondetra walked through the briars, and she didn't come through like the opening, which is why she's covered in cuts, and the smoke in this room from the fire is actually very difficult for her to breathe. At this point, Arrow walks up and sort of begins to talk to Nia. She sees Luz immediately, though, and hugs her. The two of them hug for a bit. Nia asks where Liana is, and Luz says that she saw a vision of her parents who were here a year ago. Liana thinks that they went to Snowgrave Pass. Luz says that her sister is healthy, so Nia shouldn't worry. She asks how Nia is doing, and Nia says that she's just fine. Nia tells Arrow that she's been helping patch people up, and Nia then looks over Arrow. Arrow says that he told her that he'd get her here, and he smiles. He says sorry about the roundabout way of getting here, though. Nia says it's okay, and she knew change was coming. Nia then starts to get ready as she wants to go to Snowgrave Pass. Arrow says it'll take a few days to get there, and they want to find the rest of the group before they make any decisions. Nia asks if Luz will go with them, but Luz says that her place is here helping the injured. They then hear a cheer off in the distance as a wagon pulls into Torm's Hill. She says it's due to the Moonweaver's workings that people are here and alive now. Ondetra actually asks them to talk outside or somewhere else. Nia sees Ondetra and she looks at Luz and is looking at her with distaste. Nia is confused by this. They move to a different corner of the room, a little bit further away from Ondetra. Nia says thank the Moonweaver to see her, and Luz tells her that she'll stay here and help the people out around them. Nia asks Kalsara if she can have a break, and Kalsara says yes. Arrow then goes over to Kalsara and asks if she's alright. She can't believe that he's here and says yes that she is. Arrow notes how different this place is, and she says it's a little out of hand, and Arrow asks if it's sustainable. Kalsara says no, they'll need a miracle, but there's been plenty going around. They then hear Nez yelling outside. We then go to Garin, who wakes up from a 4-hour sleep, the longest he's had in ages, and then goes to help with the river flood. He sees Nez and the older bugbear. The old bugbear is talking about people on the other side of the water. Nez turns to Garin and asks for his name, because she never got it. He introduces himself, and the bugbear says that he is Bullray. Garin says that he wants to help with the river flood and looks for a fallen wall nearby so they can use the stones from it. He thinks about his time in the prison and looks back to Bullray and says that he's going to teach them about masonry. He sees a carriage pull in and sees 3 halflings with brands on their faces. They're from one of the cities of the Strife Emperor. They have a T brand on their face for thief, and they have an HD brand for habitual drunkard. They have a wagon being pulled by oxen, and Nez is yelling at them. The wagon has lumber on it, and it looks like the wood was from a Strife Emperor construction site somewhere. Dangerous proposition these ones undertook. Garin is instructing Bullray and sees the halflings grab some tools, and they all look a little bit crazy. Nez tells them to give the tools to Bullray so he can properly hand the tools out. Garin then instructs people working for him to make a dam to block the river off a little bit. He makes a masonry tools check and rolls a dirty 20. Over the course of the day, they fix up the dam, and Garin sees Marlath on the wagon, and he starts taking notes about where the tools are going and who's taking them. With a 20, a solid wall goes up throughout the day. He also sees a standing stone in the middle of the river. Garin knows that they can make a bridge to the other side using that one. As he leads the job, he thinks back to his past. Garin chooses to teach Bullray to be a leader instead of him being the one to lead, as other people need to be able to do so. Eventually, the bridge is built, and the workers cheer, and on the other side of the river, there are more cheering coming from the woods, as a search party comes back in with a bunch of food from across in the other forest. Bullray says that Garin has worked miracles. Garin says that miracles don't come from one person, they all did this. Bullray thinks back to his life working in the fields. He thought of the Strife Emperor as their leader, until he met a woman who says that he wasn't a leader, he was a ruler. Bullray didn't know the difference. She says a ruler goes on top of the stones while a leader goes underneath the stones and tries to hold the weight up for others. Bullray didn't know what she meant back then, but he does now. They then all hear a scream from the village. In the village is a captain of the Strife Emperor with 6 soldiers behind him. He says that this gathering is at an end and they must return to their lands. The soldiers then slam their weapons against their chests. Many lay dead at their feet already. The captain says that he sees a wagon and oxen of the Strife Emperor, and he asks for the thieves to present themselves. Arrow sees there's about 40 people around in the nearby vicinity. Most of them are sick and tired. He makes an insight check 22. He sees the terror in the people of all the faces, and they knew it was too good to be true. This was not going to last. But he also sees the soldiers haven't eaten in days. Arrow walks up and puts his hand on one of the shoulders of the soldiers, and they turn and immediately are met with a breath weapon. Time to roll initiative. Nia, natural 20. Phaedra, a 19. Garin, an 18. Crocus, an 18. And Arrow with a 10. A map comes out, and a surprise round happens for Arrow, and he lets his breath weapon go, hitting the captain and 2 soldiers, but they only take 1 damage. He rolled really poorly. Arrow feels the fear of the people, and he shouts out that there are 7 overlords, or 1,200 of them. He rolls a persuasion check with inspiration and gets a 21. 5 commoners join him in the fight. Liam rolls for 5 attacks for them, and 3 of 5 hit, dealing 2 damage to one and 4 to another. They do 2 damage that's it. They only do 2 damage each. So, just for later reference. The captain yells to kill them all. Nia is now up. She tells Luz to hide. She doesn't have any weapons at the moment, so she's going to try to pull weaker people away from the conflict. She rolls a persuasion check of 19 and she's able to pull 4 people to safety, including Luz. She then holds her action. Phaedra is up. She looks to the roaches and says that they know the drill, and they all turn and run towards the closest guy. She rushes the nearest guy with Tevin and Otto. She then stabs and hits for 4 damage herself. Crocus is now up. Crocus is now up. He extends his claws out and rushes the same guy that Phaedra did, and hits and deals 9 damage. Otto and Tevin both miss their attacks. Garin is up. He is further back, and as he moves up, he tells another person that if he falls to take his place, and he gets his hammer ready. He then dashes into the fight. Nia rolls insight to see the only people who have sort of chosen to fight so far are the people who know fighting. She knows that the soldiers are up next, and she knows if those who aren't fighting don't fight, those who are brave enough to fight will eventually die. She looks to Luz and asks if she'll fight or flee, but before she can even answer, Nia says fight. She yells for everyone to fake bravery and rushes in to join the fight. Persuasion check of 17. She gets 4 people to join her, and she rolls 4 attacks. 3 of 4 hit, dealing 8 damage to the soldiers total. Nia then attacks and deals 3 damage to one of the ones in front of her. The soldiers are now up. 1 attacks Arrow, hitting for 9 damage. 1 swings for Crocus, hitting for 6 damage. 1 swings for Otto and drops him. 1 swings for Garin and hits for 10 damage. 2 commoners are dropped by one of them, and then one of them hits Nia for 6 damage. This is the first time that she's done something like this, be brave, and nearly killed for it. Arrow is up. He walks up to the captain and uses his breath weapon again. He has 2 charges of it, hitting the captain and 2 soldiers for 4 damage. All of them take the full damage this time. 1 soldier is very hurt. The captain is up and he swings for Arrow, dealing 7 damage. Arrow then goes down. Arrow says change is coming, persuasion check of 16, and 4 more people join the fight. They swing, but only one of them hit, but one of them is able to kill the soldier in front of him. The crowd goes from fearful to filled with rage. The captain then moves up to Luz and swings. He hits swinging for her holy symbol, cutting it off her body, and Luz goes down. 4 commoners make death saves. We don't know the results of these quite yet. Phaedra is up. She sees the soldiers have dropped some of their weapons when they die, and she yells Tevin to grab it. She then tells the other commoners to join the fight, and she rolls a persuasion check of 17, and 4 more join. 4 attack, 2 hit, dealing 4 damage total. Tevin yells to grab their shit when they drop it, but he misses his attack. Phaedra swings and deals 5 damage to the guard in front of her. Crocus is up. He sees Arrow on the ground, and he unknowingly activates his belt, and lightning begins to spark all around him. He then uses a lightning charge and basically hits somebody with lightning, but he makes it come from his mouth, and he hits the captain with it. The captain fails and takes 15 damage. Garin is now up, and he joins Crocus and swings at the captain, dealing 10 more damage to the captain. Nia is now up. For some reason, her initiative moved all the way down here after holding her action once, but whatever. Nia picks up Luz's holy symbol and swings for the captain with it. She feels herself calm when she picks up the symbol of this holy symbol, and the world goes quiet for the first time in ages. She feels sorry for this captain. He put himself in this position. He could have just joined them. She swings and becomes a first level cleric and hits and casts inflict wounds on him, dealing 11 damage, killing him. She looks at Arrow on the ground, the one who got her here, and says that change is coming, and she is the change. And then she kills the captain, and Nia takes his weapon. Soldiers are now up. The first one misses Garin, the second one hits Crocus for 4 damage, the next 2 drop 2 commoners, and Arrow now makes a death save, which he fails. Arrow sees the feet moving around him as he watches the captain fall. He sees Nia's magic. Something is bubbling up inside of him. In this moment, he thinks back to the men wearing similar clothing that once took away his joy as he fled. Today, he stood there, not fleeing, and he believes that it was the right choice. Phaedra is up. She makes Tevin grab a soldier, but he can't do it. So she just tries to convince more commoners to join, and she rolls a 21 on her persuasion check, getting 6 more to join. However, only 2 of the 6 hit for 4 damage. She then attacks and hits the soldier in front of her for 4 damage. Mid-swing, she becomes a level 1 rogue, getting her sneak attack, killing the soldier who dropped auto. It's Crocus's turn, of which I forgot to mention earlier. When Crocus got hit, he went down, so now he has to roll a death save, and he rolls a natural 20. A bolt of lightning strikes him, and he gets up with a first level in Monk, not the class I expected from this character. He looks at a soldier and says that you're dead, and attacks, hitting for 9 damage. He then takes his claw as a bonus action, ripping the chest of this soldier, killing him, and then looks towards the next victim. Garin is up. He looks at Arrow and knows it's not the time to help him out, so he goes to the soldier on his left and swings, dealing 10 damage, killing that soldier. Garin goes to the ground with him and says that they have hope now. He then stands back up. Nia is up. She casts Cure Wounds on Arrow. She heals him for 4 HP. She says that they make their own miracles and he should be his own miracle. Arrow feels magic enter him for the first time. It's much like what he used to do when he was a cleric in the past. The soldiers are now up. They know they've lost, and they were counting on fear to, put these people down. But they know what it means for a cleric of a prime deity to stand before them, and they believe in their god too much to turn their backs now. They swing for Nia. 1 misses and 1 hits. Nia goes down. The other soldier goes to swing for Nia again, but Garin calls for him to swing at him instead. But he doesn't, so Garin jumps in front of the blade, taking the damage for her. Arrow and Garin lock eyes as Arrow wakes up. Garin fades into unconsciousness. Arrow stands as a first level ranger. He takes a sword and goes to the one attacking Nia. Unfortunately, he misses. Commoners are now up. Nia's hits 1 for 2 damage. Arrow's hits 1 for 2 damage. Phaedra hits 2 times for 4 damage, and it's now Phaedra's turn. She swings and hits, dealing 10 damage, killing one of the soldiers. Only 1 is left. Crocus is up. He runs up and claws the last one and misses, so he goes for his bonus action attack and spins and hits with a tail attack, dealing 8 damage, killing the last soldier. Garin death save, he fails. Nia death save, she fails. Arrow tries to stabilize Nia and cast Cure Wounds on her, healing her immediately. Nia looks at him and says that, there's my miracle. Phaedra is up, and she yells for others to help out in the crowd, and Kelsara and Nez join the group to try to heal them. Kelsara immediately goes up to Otto and helps him up. Otto says Arrow is crazy. Nez rushes towards Luz, but unfortunately Luz died during the fight. She had some poor death saves. So Nez then rushes over to Garin and helps him up. Garin is remembering his old life again until he wakes up and sees Nez. Crocus is up, and he's just trying to keep beating the shit out of the body of the soldier he just killed. People give him some space, and he makes a perception check, natural 20. Crocus is a natural 20 god, it seems. He's aware of the fear he's putting in people. They don't see him as a person right now. He then sees the 2 kids that he carried here all the way from Rybat Cole. They step up to him and put their hands on his face, and then put their heads to his. They breathe slowly, and they are steadily crying a bit, as they were in fear seconds ago. Kildara says it's okay. He doesn't have to be scared anymore. He apologizes and sits down, and they hug him. They tell him it's okay and that he got them all. Celeste joins the hug and speaks to him in Draconic, which he doesn't understand, but Selwyn says that it means that he saved them. Garin is now stable but out cold again. The hands that shaped the world made him much like the stone, and he won't quit quite yet. Arrow heals Nia a bit more. Phaedra tells the people to help the fallen, and they all listen. Kelsara puts a hand on her back and tells her that she's doing exactly what she needs to do. She's no longer in the shadows, but in the open, with people looking for her for guidance. Phaedra says that this was great work. We have each other's backs, and that's how we'll make it through this all. Tevin looks at her and smiles and sees a new side of Phaedra for the first time. Nia sees Luz. She's seen a lot of messed up bodies before and a handful near death, but this is the only time she's seen, or this is the second time she's seen someone be killed in front of her. She tries to help Luz as she's done miracles before. Nia cries as nothing works. This can't be it. They were supposed to be all 3 of them, her Luz, and Liana. She keeps trying. Arrow puts his hand on her. She bangs on Luz's chest, and she blames herself. She was the one who told her to fight. Arrow says nothing will take this pain away, but she needs to give herself some grace in this impossible world. Nia looks at the sky and looks for the moon. She's able to find it and feel it through the clouds. She says that to have this one, but she must watch out for her sister. Nia then goes to bury Luz and Starman and the others who fell in this battle. Arrow watches Nia move quickly to honor the dead, but she misses what he sees for the first time. The clouds part, and they're able to see the stars light up the sky. For the first time in decades, they see Katha, and then the clouds cover it up just as quickly. Nia knew exactly where it was, somehow. The battle is now over, and the dead are buried. Ale is drunk in their honor. Tevin asks Phaedra what the angle is here, but Phaedra says that she hasn't figured that out herself, but she thinks they can make a real change here. Tevin agrees. Bullray says that there's no signs of any scouts nearby, and he says that they've saved them from fear and tyranny once again. A outdoor fire is built for the first time as the rain has let up here. People feel freedom in the air today. Crocus asks if Phaedra is okay, and she says yes, and then he goes off to the river to clean himself. Kelsara says that they are worried about Nia, as Luz was one of the few people that she had before. She asks Arrow if they'll be heading out soon, and Arrow thinks that they'll stay for a little bit. Kelsara would love for them to stay as they think they can build something here, but knows that Nia might want to leave and doesn't want her to go alone. Marlath walks up to Phaedra and asks if they can have some privacy. She says anything that he can say to her can be said to Otto and Tevin. He says that he spoke with the Bewdley brothers, the three halflings from before, and thinks that they are an enterprising group. Marlath kept a log of stuff that was handed out before, and he has spoken to them about going into business with them and, go after those who took the tools and put them in debt to the Bewdley brothers. He thinks that they can make money here and the potential burgeoning industry that is going to happen here no matter what happens. He wants to work with her to establish a new order. Phaedra underestimated him. He says that he has many skills and wants to work with her. Phaedra does want to talk to him at sundown behind Torm's Hill and tells him to bring his ledger. Marlath agrees and says that many of the people living here don't actually own the dwellings that they've taken. They can use that as leverage to make arrangements with those who do have or who have taken up these dwellings who haven't earned them. He says that they can offer to take care of the dwellings for them in exchange for the deed to the dwelling. It's all about understanding the structure that is going to be in place here. Phaedra says that they'll talk at sundown, and Arrow leans onto Garin. They note that they're both feeling their age. Arrow says it's been difficult, but thanks him for breaking him out of the Wandering Walls. Garin says that they're even as far as he's concerned. Garin isn't sure how much fight he has left in him. He's a maker, not a fighter. He feels too small for these bigger things. Arrow says that he's shown that he's big enough. Arrow says that he has it, and he knew that he had it since the second he met him. Arrow then goes off to find Nia. Nia is at Luz's gravesite still. She blames herself, and she's taken some of Luz's robes and make a pouch out of it for her new holy symbol of the Moonweaver. She's trying to make a plan for this loss to be worthwhile. Nia hears splashing in the river nearby, and in the water is Crocus splashing about. Nia can see that the water is becoming cleaner, and it's losing its ash from the calamity. This is the first time Crocus has seen a river before, and he's just playing in it like a child. Nia listens to the splashing. She hasn't spoken for a bit. Crocus sees Nia and walks over to her. He says that he's sorry about Luz, and she says that she and Crocus are similar. They don't know where their family is. Crocus says that he doesn't know his family. Phaedra raised him. She had his egg. Nia says then it's just her then. Nia says that Phaedra cares about him and misses the person who cares for her. She takes out her locket and shows Crocus a picture of her sister. Nia says that she's a day away from here and she wants to leave tonight. Arrow walks up behind them at this point, and Crocus hears Tevin call for him. Crocus tells Arrow to not let her leave, and then he goes back towards the others. Arrow and Nia stand in silence for a bit, but it's eventually broken when Nia says that she wants to go for her sister today. Arrow says if that's what she wants, then he'll go with her. He has some understanding of what she's feeling. She makes him sit with her, and she leans on him. The two have a moment of shared grief. Arrow says that he'll take her where she wants to go. Nia asks Arrow where he wants to go. Arrow wants to know something different again from what he's felt before. Nia says that they should go find it. Nia says that she can do 2 more nights here and rest up and let their friends come with them. Garin has gotten himself a mini barrel of ale, and he finds Phaedra and asks her to join him for a drink. He says that she's a survivor and she endures. She's very clever and she has good wit, and her mind is one that wants to continue. Phaedra says that it doesn't do her much good right now. It's a different world than what she thought it would be. Garin says that the look in the people's eyes today tells him otherwise. She made them find the survivors in themselves. She says that she felt something today, and she wants to look out for her people, and her people are these people around her now. Garin says that she's a survivor, but it's not just for herself, it's for everyone else now. She agrees, and the 2 drink. Nia finds Garin. She wants to speak with him privately a bit, and Phaedra sees that it's sundown, so they head to the back of Torm's Hill. As they walk, they see most people only heard about the fight, as there's a lot of people here who just didn't see it, but they know that the people were saved from going back into the darkness they were once in. The Roaches see Marlath behind Torm's Hill. Crocus hides off in the distance with a stealth check of 19. Garin and Phaedra are currently at a campsite, or a campfire, that's close enough to where they can watch everything go down. The Roaches can't see if Marlath is with anyone. Nia is going to try to read Marlath's lips. Marlath tells Phaedra that the Bewdley brothers are basically resolved and says that they have an understanding of the goods they provide should be paid for. Marlath wants to hire the Roaches to help him out a bit. Phaedra asks to see the ledger. He shows it to her, and he says that he's talked to those near the river and notes the potential water damage, and they can use that in exchange for a deed to repair the houses if need be. Phaedra says that she thinks that he's ready to join the Roaches, but Marlath doesn't want to join them. He want a tattoo, he just wants to hire them. The Roaches then grab on to Marlath. Phaedra says that they look out for their people and to not want to take advantage of them in a bad position. Phaedra says that Marlath's problem is that he talks too much, and she cuts out his tongue. She takes the ledger, and the Roaches walk away from Marlath, who is now on the ground. As they leave, Otto tells Marlath he's not a nice man and kicks him in the gut. Back with Nia and Garin, Nia saw the other Roaches with Phaedra and decided not to pay attention because she knew she'd be safe with them. Nia thanks Garin for saving her in the fight, and Garin says that he's old and she had more to live for, and she's saved him and others over the years quite a lot. He thanks her for that. Nia says that they'll be thanking each other a lot over the next few months, they're sure. Garin says that he'd like to hear more about Luz, and Nia explains the story of Luz, her sister, and herself, and how they're old family friends. Luz taught her about the Moonweaver, and her sister thought they could dream together, and they'd end up on the moon together in their dreams. Luz had a dream of the world being filled with joy and laughter, and she kept hope alive for her and her sister. Nia wanted her to see the future that she'd made for Nia and her sister, but that's not happening now. Garin says no matter where she is, she'll see the changes. He says that change is coming, and the clouds part fully this time. They can see the moon surrounded by the stars. For the first time in her life, she's lit by moonlight. They are now free in Torm's Hill, and they sit next to a fire. They find sleep here. The Roaches rest in the open for the first time. It's a lot safer to do this time. Kalsara walks to Phaedra and gives her a drink and says that Phaedra is quite fearsome. Kalsara says that she kept this place afloat, but every once in a while someone needs to get dirty, and Phaedra did. Phaedra says that anything the Roaches can do to help, just ask. Kalsara says that they can just rest up for now. She sees the ledger in her hands, and she says that she's seen that around camp and asks about it. Phaedra says that she thought she'd get some reading done. Kalsara says that Phaedra is rather frightening. Phaedra gets some rest with Crocus. Arrow is by himself near the river. He makes himself his own bonfire, and he spends a few hours watching the mountain peaks surrounded by the stars. Garin thinks of his past and the halls that he once made. He wasn't a faithful person back then, but the Allhammer was always around him. That connection was lost for a long time, but seeing these people rebuild like this, he thinks of the hammer that he held today and what he saw in the others do in the face of divinity, and wants to hold that for himself. He doesn't regain his old strength from his youth, but he seeks the wisdom instead. He doesn't level up, but something becomes true about this world. Arrow stays next to the fire and for the first time in ages, he feels the rays of the sun. The sun rises, it returns to Exandria as it hasn't in centuries in these lands. Torm's Hill stands at the end of a vast valley. The people stand in a land that will not know ash and darkness again. The hand of the Wild Mother and the reign of the Storm Lord came through here to make this place green and growing anew. They created the most beautiful valley to build anew for the people here. The session ends here. So there you have it, episode 2 of EXU Divergence. I thought it was very interesting. Honestly, I didn't think the story would go this way. I thought the story would be mostly surviving the travel to Torm's Hill, and then maybe at the end they would get like, you know, a defending the town moment sort of thing. But, you know, this is pretty interesting. I'm excited to see where they're going. It seems that they're going to rest up and then eventually leave Torm's Hill and then go to the Snowgrave Pass, which I'm very curious about. I'm still very curious about Lyanna, the sister of Nia, so I'm super excited for everything that's going to happen in the future. Otherwise, I thought this was a good episode. I was very excited to sort of learn more about this little community of Torm's Hill, and I love the visual it gives me. The atmosphere that Brennan is able to create is really good. I loved the atmosphere in the first episode of how bleak it was, and this one had a lot more hope in it, and I love the, you know, just the world building, or at least the building of this town that he was able to do in such a short time. It was a lot of fun, and I very much enjoyed it, and I like how the players are also growing that community, which I think is a lot of fun and really cool. So yeah, I will say, there's going to be a lot of people upset about the combat. A lot of people are very rules lawyery, and they don't like how free-flowing combat can get sometimes in Critical Role, and this one is no exception to that. They definitely bend a few rules, do a lot more than they should be able to, but I'm honestly okay with that. These are low-level characters, and they need to be able to survive fights like this. So now that they've all received levels, with the exception of Garin, they should be fine to not have to worry about stuff like this, so we'll see. I'm very excited for the future of these. You know, I think there's only 2 episodes left, so I'm very curious to see what's going on with that. So yeah, with that, I will see you guys on Tuesday for whatever video I make next. Peace.